We hunt for treasure, stacking them in piles. Hustling hard, making deals all day. Flipping finds, turning profit our way. Pure Hustle Podcast guides our quest. Learning tricks to be the best. On eBay we make our name. Reselling dreams, winning the game. Pure Hustle Podcast guides our quest. Learning tricks to be the best. On eBay we make our name. Reselling dreams, winning the game.
Welcome to Pure Hustle Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're on episode 415, a live themed episode.
That's right. So we haven't had a live main episode in a while. We've done it a couple of times, I believe, but it's been quite a while since we've done it. So yeah, this is Thursday. Normally this drops on Wednesday, but we wanted to go live with you guys, and we'll be posting this up on the podcast. So if you can't stick around the whole time, it'll be up wherever you listen to your podcast here pretty soon. But let me that intro song, not the one with, you know, our normal intro, but like that stream, the stream starting soon. That song just gets me pumped up. Like of all of the ones that I've put on here, like that one, like, I don't know, it gets me. Let me know in the chat, what do you guys think about some of those intro songs we got going on? So while we're waiting on that, Orlando, you want to say hi to some people in the chat?
Yes. Hey, what's going on, everyone that's joining us in the pad? What's going on, Patrick Kehoe? Andrea, how are you? 3 things I resold. Hopefully you've resold more than 3. Secondhand Solo, what's going on up in San Diego? My competition. And then what's going on, Travis? I'm trying to see who else is here. Oh, we got Big Dre. What's going on, Big Dre? It's been a minute. And yeah, I think I said hi to Travis already. So we got a few more joining us here. So grateful for all of you. Oh, what's going up? What's going on, Anik Alexander? And always appreciate all of you. Some of you are like consistently here on our lives, joining us. Like Susquehanna Picker just joined us, and so hey, grateful for all of you. And yeah, you know, just give you a heads up. The reason we didn't record is my fault. on Monday on the live, my AC broke on Sunday, which, you know, it's a first world problem. But in San Diego, it's been like 105 degrees where I live, and it was pretty miserable. You know, the worst part about it was having a list. I got to tell you, you want nothing to do with eBay when there's no air conditioning or anything cooling your house, and it's over 100 degrees. It was pretty brutal, but the business had to continue, and I had to make it happen. But now we got AC back, and so we'll be good. It's not going to be a grouchy live episode here.
Yeah. Now you got some cool air, and yeah, you can't survive without AC, man. That's too tough. Oh, I see here that there's a football game tonight. I guess I should have realized Thursday night football. Man, we're going to be competing. All of our listeners, man, the thousands of people who would be watching us are going to be watching football instead. It's a bummer, but thank you for those of you who did show up here.
Yeah, but look at Big Dre says, I'm doing a crash course, not even watching football, how to repair a Dyson ball vacuum. I just sold it for 170, free shipping, paid $10 for it. But now I see a broken color repair that I have to fix before tomorrow. Ooh,
yeah,
you'll get it done. You'll get it done.
And you might learn a skill. You know, you might become the vacuum seller, and so fixing little things. There's a niche market for that.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. So today we're going to be talking about this upcoming Q4, but since we're not there yet, we want to take
we're almost there. Can you believe it?
We're getting there.
September already.
We're getting there. So we're gonna do a little bit of a reflection here, kind of looking back at mistakes we've made in the past on Q4, just lessons that we've learned, so that we go into this Q4 ready to go. And I feel like, I mean, we're going on 6 years of doing this, so I feel like it's always a Q4 season we're talking about, but the reality is this is going back to that football analogy. This is like Super Bowl time for us, right? Like, we got to get ready. This is we spend all year talking about the weeks coming up, because this is the time where a lot of companies, not just resellers, but just any type of business that's selling product, tends to start moving into the black and really making a lot of money. So we want to make sure that we go to this Q4 prepared, ready to go. And as we're talking, if we miss anything or if you guys have other tips and tricks, feel free to throw them in the comments below.
Yeah, let us know. And so the first thing, and this goes for everyone, whatever platform you're selling, if your primary income during Q4 is Amazon, right? Part of it is like not sourcing enough, right? Not having enough items listed on there. But on eBay, it's actually a big deal because on eBay, people, I feel they're buying even earlier than they do on Amazon, because on Amazon, they know they can get it in a certain amount of time. But on eBay, people, I think, stress. And so I think people are buying even now for Christmas. So one of the things I've learned, one of the regrets I remember one year I had was that I didn't list enough on eBay. I had so much inventory that I just got lazy. Summer was really good to me, and then I was like, do I want to keep listing more? Like, it's eBay, because eBay tends to not slow down, but not be as how can I say this? It doesn't move at the pace of Amazon during Q4. Like, it does bring in a lot of sales, and it's exciting and it's great, but it's not like on the Amazon level. And so sometimes you're like, oh, should I focus on eBay? But I want to tell you, like, I've had years at Q4, and this may be a year like that, where 25% of my store is sold through within 1 month, right? It's just craziness, and a bunch of stuff that I kind of was hesitant on listing, or maybe you're worried, you're like, oh, I don't know about the sell through, but there is value in it and there's money you can make. Q4 is a great time to have that stuff listed because you never know what's going to sell in Q4. People are looking for all kinds of gifts, all kinds of goods. And even in this economy that we're in, people have stretched out, the limits of their credit card. And so maybe they're looking for more secondary goods. So one thing I learned is, like, you can never list enough for Q4, whether it be on eBay, or you can never source enough for Amazon, because people will be buying.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm gonna jump off of the order we had these listed, 'cause there's one I kind of want to talk about here. I think is good too. So Orlando put on our little notes here this idea of taking some time off during peak season. I talked to him about it before we started recording here or going live, and I wanted to get his idea of what he meant by that. And as soon as he started talking about it, I'm like, oh yes, this is key. So if you're an Amazon seller or you're going to be doing some retail arbitrage, this is even more important. But even for those of us who are eBay sellers, this is important too. A lot of us are not full-time. There are many full-time resellers who listen to our podcast, but there's also a lot of people who are trying to figure out reselling. They're trying to figure out, how to make extra money, make ends meet. And this may be your first Q4. Maybe this is your second Q4, and you have another job. There's something else you do 9 to 5. It's hard to put emphasis enough on how much will sell during Q4 compared to any other time during the year. You're going to be busier than ever. And if you don't capitalize on every opportunity during this time, you're missing out on the golden time, right? Like we talk about the golden hour with garage sales, like this is the golden season of reselling. And so it's not a bad idea to potentially schedule some time off from work, save up some of your vacation time or sick time throughout the year, and take a little bit of personal time during the end of the year as you're getting closer to November and December. Take some time off from your normal work so that you can get listings done, because you want those items listed, like Orlando said, so that you can go sourcing and pick up those items, especially if you're doing some retail arbitrage. And you're probably going to have some days where you're going to be selling and shipping more than you're used to. And so having a couple of days off so you can get organized, that you can maybe ship out big shipments if you've got a lot coming in, it's worth it, right? Especially if you got the time saved up. It may not be worth it to take unpaid time off of work or to put your 9 to 5 in jeopardy, but it's a good idea to say, hey, I'm going to save up a couple of days every year that I'm going to take off near Black Friday, maybe, or near, that this Christmas shopping time, so that I can get some sourcing done, get items listed, and focus solely on reselling, because you don't want to miss out on this opportunity.
I'm telling you, I had two experiences. I had one year, I'll never forget, there's always that time, like right before Thanksgiving, where, if you're like, when I was a teacher, most schools don't have school during those days, like that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I remember one year I decided to go to Disneyland, which was great. I have zero regrets about taking my family to Disneyland. and it was an awesome time. But I remember that whole time going, oh, I need to get my FBA shipments in. I need to get items in. And I didn't, and I enjoyed, but I think it did cost me, because the next year I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go to Disneyland after Thanksgiving. I'm gonna find another time, and I ended up actually taking those days off, because you may be a teacher and not have classes, but you always have like these professional development days where there's a speaker that comes in, or whatever you do. And I remember I had purposely, like, somehow I figured out where I could, like, we ended early on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday we had that day off. And so I said that those days I'm gonna make sure I do nothing but FBA. And I remember I sourced a ton on Tuesday, I shipped out a ton of items on Wednesday, and I made several $1,000s just off of those 2 days. Like, I'm grateful that I took that time. Then there was another Q4 time where I took 3 days off the first week of December. And during that first week of December, I ended up doing a ton of retail arbitrage for Amazon, a lot of it merchant fulfilled. And I rented out a van. It was like a minivan. And I went up to the Los Angeles area, and I went up and down the coast of California. And I remember I was just buying stuff and shipping it out, buying stuff and shipping it out. And during those days, I don't know, maybe I made 10K, maybe more than that. I don't know what it was. This was a few years back, but I have zero regrets to that time that I took off, because, that time right there, you have no idea how much money you could be losing. Mike's talked before about our Q4 wrap that we made years ago. And, for Mike and I to make that video, it's kind of funny. It sounds like it's a huge production, but it was a big deal. And it probably took about, 6 hours, 8 hours. It took a lot of time. And I remember all that time thinking about all the money I was losing every single hour. So if you have the ability to take some time off, even if you're not an Amazon seller, just you're strictly eBay, or you do eBay and Poshmark and Mercari or whatever it is, like, if you can just have focused days, and make sure you make them intentional, right? Make sure they're not days that you're like, oh, I'm gonna take some time off and maybe listen. No. You have to remember, you're trying to maximize that time. So try to get as many listings, try to get as many items up. Or if you're doing Amazon, have a plan out where you're going to source, plan out when you're going to ship out your items FBA, but make the most of that time.
Yeah, I was actually kind of thinking, I wonder if I can upload that Q4 wrap to play at the end of our stream today, just because since we're bringing it up anyways, that might be fun. I'll see if I could do that while we're talking here. We have someone here, three things I resold, says taking tomorrow off after I saw 3 neighborhood sales are taking place near my house.
I think we might. Oh, okay, I thought I lost you, Mike, for a moment there.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so we got taking tomorrow off after I saw 3 neighborhood sales are taking place near my house. Yeah, so that's just what we're talking about, right? Like, even things like that might be worthwhile taking some time off, because that's some golden hour stuff right there.
Wow, this is interesting. So this is what I'm looking forward to before we get back into our topic. Says Susquehanna Picker says 4-week yard sale season starts here in PA. It is a mad dash. And you know what? That's kind of like what happens here too in San Diego. I even noticed, like, today I was driving around and there's all these signs for garage sales. I'm like, I haven't seen that in a while. And maybe it's because the weather is finally cooling down. I hope so. Yeah, definitely. And that's the other thing. Take advantage of this garage sale season right now. You're entering September, October. Because you can pick up a ton of items right now for eBay and get it listed now. And again, people always talk about how holiday sales, people are buying earlier. You might sell through some of that stuff now instead of having to wait till peak time of Q4. All right, now I've been talking a lot about Amazon, and I'll talk more about Amazon later. But one thing I do wish, and I see this every year, is I always have a regret that I'm not organized enough. And even though we have full-on episodes about what you should do to prepare for Q4, sometimes I don't listen to my own advice. So that means, I don't have enough shipping supplies, or that means that I don't have my inventory custom SKU labels all set up so I know where items are at. Sometimes that means that, I don't have my Reseller Genie, which we'll talk about a little bit. I don't have bookkeeping set up. I don't have Mileage IQ, the app that I use on my phone to track mileage. And there's tons of other apps out there. But, this is the time right now to get it done, because you're going to have regrets later. I remember one year I didn't. So be careful, because if you rent a vehicle, you can't claim all that mileage. But if you use your own vehicle, right, you have so much mileage that you can claim during Q4. And so make sure that you have that app going, because you may not be thinking about it. Maybe you're entering your first Q4. Maybe you're in a cook group, right? In that cook group, you're already learning about all these items that you can pick up at Walmart or Target, whatever, that are hot items. And you're driving all over the place. But guess what? You can use all that mileage as deduction on your taxes. So if you're not using an app to track that, you could be losing money. Like, you could be making, I don't know, several $100s a day, but you may be losing a couple $100s a day in mileage if you're not careful. Or if I had one day, I remember during Q4, I drove about, I want to say it was about 600 to 800 miles, and that was kind of crazy. But I was, I don't, I gotta tell you, I think I drove like 14 hours that day, maybe 16, and I was going all over the place and making quick stops. And you got to remember, like, that is money that you are losing from the profits that you're making. So if you don't have some kind of app that's tracking your mileage, hey, maybe you want to go old school and pull out the notebook and write them down. But I got to tell you, with the mileage app, it's so much easier to track. And so one regret, that I had in the early days was I didn't track my mileage during Q4. And it wasn't until I think like 2 or 3 Q4s that I realized, like, wait a second, I should be tracking my mileage. And by then, it's kind of too late. So make sure you are organized before entering Q4, because Q4 is only like 2 or 3 weeks away.
Yeah. You've got to be organized. We talked in the past too, even with like shipping and having all your supplies ready, especially if you're buying. I remember I bought like 50 of one item one time, and I had to find the right box that fit it. And once I found that box, I had to like find lots more of those boxes. And so if you're going to be shipping certain types of items out, getting that stuff ahead of time is crucial. And that way you're ready to go when those items are selling. Our next one is, and this is one that a lot of people can kind of struggle with. You mentioned like cook groups and stuff, is when you're dealing with hot items, like really hot items, or like trends, you want to be careful with those, because um, things can go up and down real quick, and you're dealing with the race to the bottom, right? So there's some things that are going to be your bread and butter Q4 items. They're going to do well because they're just normal gifts. But if you're trying to play the game where you're getting the hot fingerlings, right? Like fingerlings, I think, are the perfect example. It's why we had them in the background for so long. That's why they're part of our Q4 song that we have. Yep, there's the fingerling right there. You're always throwing books around there, Orlando.
I know.
But yeah, so there are going to be things
you're
like
haunting me to this day.
It's just a reminder, sometimes you got to keep some reminders of failures or lessons. We'll call them lessons, not failures. But yeah, so when you're trying to chase just the hot deal, you got to be careful, because there's a good chance you're going to end up in a race to the bottom, and you're going to be stuck with a ton of inventory that you can't move. So sometimes it's better to be more into niche items or items that aren't necessarily the trends. Now, if you can get your hands on 1 or 2 items that are really, really hard to find and they sell for great money, like if you can get your hands on the console, you know what I mean, or whatever it is that is selling, that could be very beneficial to you. But if you're going to a store and you're going to every Target or every Walmart and buying 20, 30 of the fingerling every time because it's the hot item, you can be really careful and need to track that, because that could start to dip really quick. So be careful with the types of items you're picking up, and don't necessarily, it's almost like that gambling dopamine rush, right? Like where you see something, you're making potential money quickly, and so you just go all in on the wrong item, and it can be brutal. Don't always buy into the hype.
I remember one year the Luva Bella dolls. So I don't know how many of you in the chat, let me know if you remember these. But there was these thing called Luva Bella dolls, and there were these talking baby dolls. And I'll never forget Rakin Profit, Steve Rakin. Maybe he's like an OG eBay seller, but he does a lot of Amazon. I think right now his latest thing has been Amazon for like the last year or so. And I remember he did a video about Amazon arbitrage, and he had Luva Bella dolls in it. And I think a lot of people, including myself, was like, you know what? Is that going to be a hot item? I think it's going to be a hot item. And I remember I bought so many. I want to say I bought, there were about, I don't remember what they even cost. They might have been like $50 a pop. I bought probably, let's say 200, right? You do the math, 200 at $50 a pop. Like, we're talking about, what is that? That's a lot of money. That's 10K, right? A little bit. Maybe I got my math. Yeah, that's 10K, right? So I remember buying a ton of them, And I did okay. I did okay for a little bit. Like I remember for about a couple weeks, there was like this peak time where like you could sell them for like 100, 110, 120. Maybe you're making 20, 30 bucks on each one. And so you're making good money. But then everybody found out about them. I don't know if it's because people caught on to the YouTube video. Maybe somebody in a cook group said something, but I was cooked. It was bad. And I remember just trying to sell those. And I ended up having, I think, like 20 left over. And you could do two things with that, right? You could do the walk of shame and go return them, which I'm not a big fan of. Or you could try to sell them on eBay. The beauty for me was I actually held on to them for about 2 years. And then now I think if you go on eBay, I don't know right now, but last time I saw you could sell them for like 150, 200, more than they were selling during Q4. But do you really want to take that risk? Because some items, like my fingerling right here, just never recovers. Because I went deep on these. I mean, I bought, I don't know, 200 of these, and I did well for a little bit. And then eBay gated people. I mean, eBay, Amazon gated people on the fingerlings. And so when I was selling, these were, I want to remember how much they were. I think they were like 15 bucks. You could sell them for like 60, 80, 90, maybe. I hope I'm not exaggerating. I think that's how much you could sell them for. It's been a minute. And
no,
then
they had those trucks that were going around, remember, where you could they would do pop-up trucks where like the first so many people in line would be able to buy fingerlings.
No, I think, is it fingerlings or what? Are you talking about Hatchimals?
No, they were doing that with fingerlings, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
For a while, yeah.
It's very possible. And then I remember and then after that, just I these things. Now these might come back. I mean, I've had people actually pay like 30 bucks for these, so I still do okay. I only got so much left, but you just gotta be careful.
Eventually they'll be vintage. I like this one. We got Grub Street Book says, hi guys, I scored some manga today and we'll do well with it. It was on my radar. Thanks to Orlando. Thank you so much. Yeah, Orlando, I want to give you credit for that because you've been talking about that recently, but I'm going to take the ultimate credit for that.
Yes, Mike was original.
Because I feel like I introduced you to the manga game, and yeah, man, it's one of those things where you really got to know what you're looking at, because sometimes they're worthless, but if you can get the right copies, the right volumes. And I think what keeps a lot of people away from manga is they might see like, oh, this person only has like number 13, number 27, and number 28, like random numbers, random volumes, and you think you have to have the whole set. But if it's the right manga that you're looking at, it's wild the volumes people look for, so you can do really well.
And I gotta tell you, it was this time last year where I had that major manga score. I paid like $160 for everything. It was where I had the Game Boy Advance boxes. But on top of that, I bought, I don't know, 500 manga books. I don't know what it was. And ever since then, I always pick up manga. And you're right. Like sometimes I'll list a lot and my lot will be like volume 5, 11, 21, and it'll still sell just because people want those. Or sometimes you'll list a lot and people ask, hey, are you willing to sell these two? And I've actually said okay to that because I still am able to sell them even when I split them up. So yeah, definitely manga is a bolo to keep out there. Yeah, it is interesting, especially the One Piece gold foil. That is the one that I've been making good money on lately. So
yeah, especially because they came out with that movie. Real quick,
Netflix show.
Yep. Yeah, the Netflix show, that's what it was. Really quick, I want to say stick around for the very end because I will play, instead of our normal outro video, I will play the Q4 wrap. I was able to upload that video up here, so that it's on the dock, ready to go. So yes.
Trying to get more clicks, huh? We're just trying to get those.
That's right. But if you want to see it, you got to hit the like and subscribe button.
All right. Hey, before we move on, I did mention My Reseller Genie. And one thing you do not want to be stuck with is having to figure out all the bookkeeping after a crazy Q4. So if you haven't checked out My Reseller Genie, if you're a first-time user, you could get it for 15% off the first month by using our code Pure Hustle. My Reseller Genie is bookkeeping software created by resellers for resellers, so you can import everything from eBay, from Poshmark, track your profit and loss. It's a great tool. So again, check it out. There's a link below. Go to My Reseller Genie, use our code Pure Hustle, all caps, and you'll get 15% off the first month. Shout out here to Disgruntled Octopus all the way from Australia. Thanks for joining us. What time is it out there? I mean, I could Siri it, but I just want to know in the chat here. So all right. So we talked about overloading the items. Let's do one more, and then we'll go to our hustle of the week, huh? You good with that?
Yeah.
All right. So this next one, this is one that not a lot of people think about. Mike, how many? I'm interested as a parts assembler. How many times have you shipped express? I'm pretty sure it hasn't been that often, like overnight.
Yeah, almost never. I've only done it a couple of times, and that's when it's like usually a pretty big ticket item, and a customer is like really desperate. I've even done it one time for like a pair of shoes that weren't even that expensive, but I think people needed them. Like, hey, I've got this event, I need this pair at this size, so they were willing to pay for it. But yeah, I've definitely had to adjust shipping times and shipping methods, especially as we get closer to Q4, because people are way more. I guess they demand faster shipping as it gets closer because they want to make that deadline, whether it's Christmas deadline, maybe it's a Christmas party before Christmas, a work party, something, a gift they're going to be getting to somebody. They want to make sure they have it in hand. And so if you want to make those last minute sales, you got to be ready to potentially be shipping express or shipping overnight.
All right, so I'm going to split something up real quick here because Susquehanna Picker brings about a good point. Also, check store return policies. Some may have changed from last year. Nothing like not realizing they implemented a restocking fee. And so, yeah, you definitely have to be careful with that with Q4. I got to tell you, I don't see it as much as I used to, but there was a time where people felt comfortable posting, like returning their items from Q4 that didn't sell. I'm like, why would you do that? But the obviously stores have become more aware that resellers are doing a lot of resale arbitrage. For example, I have been canceled on Target Circle for, I don't know, 5-6 years because they know I'm a reseller, and I ended up, I don't know, whatever it triggered the system, but I just kept buying the same item, and eventually they're like, oh, you can't get any more of the Target Circle discounts. But you got to be careful because you never know. They can I've even seen some people that they've gone to return stuff and they'll say like, nope, we're not going to return these. You're a reseller. So you got to be careful when it comes to that. Now, talking about shipping express, I got to tell you, Q4, people will pay top dollar for items to get there for Christmas. Sometimes people have birthdays around that time, and I don't know if that like motivates them more. But I've had, for example, I had this Hot Wheels toy one time, and it sold for like $200. But they wanted it to New York from San Diego, and they paid, I think it was about $400 to get it overnighted. That's not a real word, but to get it there overnight express. And so I actually, when I get the free shipping supplies from the post office or from FedEx or from UPS, I will get like express boxes and express envelopes because you just never know. You never know. I've had other items that people are like, hey, can you express this? I don't care. Whatever it costs, let me know. Now, do what you will with this information I'm about to share. When people ask me how much it'll cost, I end up quoting them what the retail is going to cost. I don't quote them what eBay tells me because I always think there's always something like you'll miss, like whether it be measurements, whatever, or sometimes you can quote them a flat fee. It's up to you. For me is, I've had express items where like I was done for the night. I wasn't going to ship out anymore, but somebody's like, I need to get this. And if you're going to ship express, let's say UPS or FedEx, like the earlier you get there in the morning, right, the sooner they pick it up and they send it off. So to me, it's kind of like a convenience charge, when I do that, because it's like, hey, I have to go out of my way to pack this item, get it to the UPS, get it to FedEx early. And that's another recommendation on my end. If you want to ship overnight or express, I would not use the post office. I use FedEx or UPS. They seem to be a lot more consistent. They seem to guarantee it, where the post office is like, hopefully it gets there. I've actually had them
get it there, and they do like a wink and a nod.
Yeah, and then you can ask for a refund. I don't know. It's been kind of weird. So definitely use UPS and FedEx if you're doing that express shipping, and make sure to have those supplies beforehand.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. It's time for us to talk about those nice hustles of the week.
Oh, wrong one.
I thought we had a new song on there.
It's the freaking hustle of the week.
Yeah. All right. That one's better. I didn't really like that other one that I made. So our first hustle of the week.
Can we listen to it? Can we just listen to it? Or is it really bad?
Man. We've heard it before. You've heard it before.
We're on a live though. Let's just do it.
All right.
Everybody, let's know your thoughts on this. All right, so let
All
us
right.
know, Pat, which one is better, the old school one or that new one that was created? I mean, we did lose a couple viewers at that point in
Yeah, they're
time. Maybe it
they're
was
like
because
this.
of Hustle of the Week.
They came on, they saw us dancing to like some ridiculous music, and they're like, "Nope, out. I'm out. I'm not watching this." All right, so our first one comes from somebody, he's been mentioned a handful of times here. Tim the Slim from our Discord. So went to a church sale and picked up a whole ton of Willie George Puppet Ministry Sunday School puppets. Got like 6 puppets, and this one for 30 to 40 bucks or so. Sold a complete Rover Comer Willie costume on eBay for $399.95 plus shipping. Holy smokes. That's like people who are looking back to when they were kids. Like when I was in Sunday school, our Sunday school, they used the felt board with the things, and they had the puppets and they did the songs, and so they've got that nostalgia. Maybe they're starting their own Sunday school and they're willing to pay for that puppet and that costume because that brings back those memories, right? So man, anytime you can find something like that, you're gonna do really well. I think that's a great hustle. From 30 to 40 bucks and sold for 400 bucks. Holy smokes.
No, and listen, I want to add to that. Like a lot of people don't realize that it's a super niche field. Like the whole like Christian, like DVDs, toys. Like there's like Superbook and there's Veggie Tales and there's like all this stuff, and people want that because some that stuff is discontinued, right? And so people want to get nostalgic, and people will pay big money. I've sold some like Veggie Tales stuff for good money. I've sold some. I'm trying to think what else. There's just stuff from like people's childhoods.
Yeah, I don't know if these would sell for anything, but I remember when I was a kid, they even had these. There were these Christian trading card game. It's supposed to be like the Christian version of Magic, and it was called Redemption. I don't know if the old. I mean, I'd have to look it up on eBay. But I wouldn't be surprised if the older cards probably sell for quite a bit. But those were like the Christian version of Magic the Gathering, which I always thought was a little weird.
What?
Yeah, it's called Redemption, and it's a little weird because the you play asymmetrically, so like one side plays like the devil's side and one side plays, or I think you play both, like you're both playing against each other, but like you have to play like devil cards and stuff to stop them from winning, and so it's weird. I always felt a little awkward playing it. I didn't play it a lot, but I did have the cards.
Interesting. Stuff like that always cracks me up. All right, thanks so much, Tim Slim. You got your shout out. Okay, your once a podcast shout out. There you go. All right, this next one comes from Diamond Roy from Gmail. Also in the comments, if I mess up your name again, please let me know. Says, hey, this is Diamond Roy. I just wanted to share one of my recent hustles. So I've made driving around my neighborhood the evening before bulk trash pickup days one of my regular sourcing routes. Well, 2 weeks ago, one of my neighbors had a bunch of black trash bags as well as a bunch of other trash on their lawn. I peeked in one of the black trash bags and saw a GameCube. Oh, what a sight. And immediately snatched it up. When I took it home, the bag, and went through it, I found a whole Nintendo GameCube system with the cables, an extra Mad Catz controller and Mad Catz memory card, a Mario Sunshine Nintendo Cube game, just a disc, a whole Wii system with the cables, a Fitbit in the box, an old iPhone 6. I've tested everything so far except for the Wii system, and everything works. I've already sold the iPhone 6 for 30 bucks and the Mad Catz controller and memory card for $20, both on Facebook Marketplace. It's crazy what people throw away. Today's actually the evening before bulk trash pickup. Excited to see what I'll find next. I love hearing those. It is crazy, right? To think that somebody would throw away a GameCube.
Yeah,
it
is crazy. I've definitely gotten stuff like that was out for trash. I did really well on some old audio equipment and some like naval. I think it was part of like a Navy ship or maybe a submarine, some kind of a naval vessel. It was like the components that were inside for like sonar and radar, and so it was like old busted up stuff. But I picked them up for free on the side of a road, like next to a trash can, and I sold them for so much money. I was like, some of them I sold for like 120 bucks, some I sold for like 80. Like I picked up like 15 pieces and I sold them all. It was nuts. But I always wonder, like in the back of my mind, even though I'm 99% sure this is trash, I'm actually 100% sure, except for like there's that little doubt in the back of my mind that's like, what if somebody like sold this on like Facebook Marketplace and was like, I'll bag it up for you and set it outside of my house, you know? I know that that's unrealistic, but my thought is like, I don't want to be the guy who stole. You know what I mean? Like, even though I know I didn't, it was at the trash, it was next to a trash can, or in the back of my mind, I'm like, what if?
That is, what would be funny is if that video went viral, right? You see like this bearded bald guy in a driveway picking up a trash can, like it was some kid's birthday gift that they were buying for that birthday, and you stole it.
Yep.
That would be pretty awesome. So, hey, real quick, I just want Travis said, Hydebrink, which is this Tim the Slim's like pseudo name? Came for the Tim the Slim shout out, and I'm not leaving disappointed. So, well, good. I'm glad you showed up. No, that is, I gotta tell you, Diamond, that is amazing. Here, I want to read a couple hustle of the week in our chat. Why not? Why don't we do the ones in the chat real quick?
Yeah.
Here's one from Three Things. I resold my hustle last Saturday after needing to spend most of the morning. I started going to garage sales at 11:30 a.m. No home runs, but lots of singles. Picked up some jeans, jackets, and shoes. I think will sell for $20. Didn't pay more than $2 for anything. That's great. I mean, gotta tell you, even if it's not 400, like the thing about that's like a 10x, right? And you got up late and you still found items. That is definitely awesome. Now, Susquehanna Picker here says, hustle of the week, vintage bamboo fly fishing rod. Paid $10, should pop off or close to $200.
Yeah.
And there you go.
Fly fishing, man. That's one of those. We were talking about niche stuff, right? Like that's one of those things. People spend money on their hobbies. That's just the way it is. People spend money on their hobbies, and if it's a hobby that's like that, people will definitely spend money on it. So I always use the RC card just because it's the easy one in the back of my head. But you could easily do fly fishing, right? Like any hobby like that. Somebody mentioned archery earlier, listing while they're up in the deer stand or whatever, doing some archery stuff.
Are you supposed to be like dead quiet? I've gone to deer hunting.
No, but you can list.
I've gone bow hunting. No, you cannot.
You can't be quiet on your phone. Come on now, Orlando. I mean, you probably don't have your eyes out where you need to be looking, but anyways, people spend money on their hobbies.
All right, Diamond wanted to add. So this was the hustle week we just shared. Says they're moving. One of their neighbors was moving a few weeks ago and was about to throw away some empty Louis Vuitton boxes. Snatched those up too. You know what? That's legit. That's kind of like I was at the gas station. I think this time last year. I don't know if I shared it on the podcast, but I was just pumping gas and I looked in the trash, and there was some Nike Travis Scott. There was a Nike Travis Scott shoe box, and I was like, "Huh, that's crazy." So I picked it up because I know the shoes are worth like $2,000, whatever. So I picked it up. I'll never forget posting it on Instagram, and everybody's like, "Oh, those are fake. That box is fake." And I'm like, "Listen, I don't care. Like, why would somebody go out of their way to produce like?" And I know there are fake Travis Scotts out there. I get it, but I don't know. The story just seemed weird. Like somebody put on a pair of shoes and threw away the box at a gas station. I'm like, I don't know. This is just weird enough that it has to be valid. And so I listed that box, and I think I sold the box for like $30 to $40 plus shipping. So yeah, you just never know. And I've shared this story so many times, but if you're new here, listen, trash can sell for money. My Game Boy Advance boxes that I got this time last year that was put in the trash. It was Pokemon. It was Super Mario Brothers, Zelda. I made over $2,000 on those boxes that were in the trash. You just never know.
That's right.
All right, what's our next one here?
All right, our next one comes from Patrick, and this was a Gmail sent to us. He says, here's something that everyone at an estate sale, this is day 3 of the estate sale, passed up. But if you know what to look for, you can score. There was a box everyone was looking in and then put back. Curiosity got the best of me, so I looked too. It was full of a variety of NOS cassette audio tapes.
New old stock.
Gotcha, new old stock cassette audio tapes. But, and here's the key, they were metal Type 4 cassette tapes.
Ooh, nice.
A box full for $10. I snagged it. It was full of 61 tapes, and over the last year have sold them for over $3,300 in total. Oh my gosh. Most sold for the $20 to $50 range, but some went as high as $149 each. So be on the lookout for metal Type 4 tapes. Even the used ones can command a price of $15 to $25 each. Stay Pure, Patrick Kehoe or Keohe. Man, that's I never even knew that was a thing. Metal type 4 cassette
Oh
tape. I'm
yeah,
gonna have to look that up.
I never see them, but like I wish I did. They're that's not only is it Hustle Week, but it's a bolo. Yeah, Patrick, thanks. That's your I think that's like your second or third Gmail hustle of the week. So yeah, by the way, if you ever want to send us a hustle of the week, Gmail is actually the best way. It's the one that's not as crowded. Like if you DM us, our DMs are just crazy. And right now, Mike and I have been trying to keep up on. So it's more my fault. I'm the main social media guy, and I haven't been up on it. But DMs, things get lost in DMs. But if you email us at pureasapodcast@gmail.com, that's pureasapodcast@gmail.com. Chances are we'll read it on the podcast. Or if you want to leave us a message, which I got to check if our phone's even active anymore, but 619-738-1170. That's 619-738-1170. And we're on all social media. We are Pure Hustle Podcast, and on X, we are Pure Hustle Cast. And as always, thank you to all of you that are tuning in right now on our live. And if you are listening to this after live on the podcast, come on over to YouTube, subscribe, hit that like button. And if you're watching right now, hey, go smash that like button if you're enjoying this podcast. And as always, thankful for all the iTunes reviews. If you haven't yet, jump on over, give us that 5 stars, let us know why you listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
And hey, want to shout out Ayana here. Haven't heard from you in a while. I know you listen to the podcast, but old school listener back from the early days and still sticks with us. So glad you are joining us here. I think right from Washington, right? So anyways, appreciate you being here with us.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, what is your hustle of the week?
Well, it's really hard to follow up a $3,300 cassette tape hustle. Mine's definitely not that great, but mine's a local one, which makes it kind of interesting. So I picked up a filament, I guess it's called a filament, 3D filament for a 3D printer, and a filament like dehydrator is not the right word. So a humidifier thing keeps it the right temperature. It warms it up, all of that, right? Keeps the humidity correct. It keeps all of the temperatures correct so you can store it. And I picked these up at the Crazy Hot Deals near me, $8 each. So I paid $16. So I got a bunch of filament and I got this dehydrator, humidifier, whatever it is thing. And I listed it on eBay. I have another one too listed up on eBay too, but I listed it up on eBay and I probably could have sold the two together for 100, maybe a little bit more than 100. But the problem was it's kind of heavy. I was going to lose some money on shipping. I was going to lose a little bit of money, with the eBay fees. So I was like, why not? I'm going to throw this up on Facebook Marketplace too. So I did. I threw it up and I had it listed pretty high. So I had it listed at $150 for the set because, a lot of times that filament's really cheap, but this machine was what kind of made the deal. And so I listed it for $150. Somebody finally messaged me back. It's been several weeks now. And he talked me down to 100, which I was happy about, right? Like, okay, I'll negotiate with you. I'll go down to 100. We'll make this happen. And I'm not having to pay shipping costs. I'm not having to pay eBay fees. This is $100 in my pocket. I paid $16 for it. And even though the hustle isn't a huge profit, it's nice because sometimes you can make the sale locally and save some instead of shipping it. And when it's something like that where you're going to look at $15 to ship this because it's kind of heavy, it's kind of awkward, it's going to be big, sometimes it's worth doing that.
No, I got to tell you, I'm trying to think. Oh, for example, I have one of those. Is it called New Wave? Right? I don't know. I think there's a New Wave. What you're talking about, and I haven't listed it because I'm like, do I want to deal with this thing? Now I only paid $5 for it. I'll probably make I'll probably sell it for 50 to 80. But yeah, hey, listen, hustle of the week is a hustle of the week, so it's all good. Now, the one I have, I gotta tell you, I am a little shocked by it. Maybe I could. I don't know if I want everybody to wait for me to like bring in the the stuff that I was selling, but I ended up going to an estate sale super late. It was like 10 in the morning, and it was a comic book store estate sale, which I was like, wow, this is crazy. And I remember showing up, and a bunch of people hit me up on Instagram. They're like, oh, Orlando, I went to that yesterday. I bought a bunch of things. Like, it was amazing. And I'm like, what did you find? Because usually comic book stores are very priced up. Like, stuff is very retail or even more. And then when it's an estate sale, it's even more, right? Like they bring in even more money. They up the prices even more. Well, I showed up and it was kind of like something was just guiding me to this. So I walk in and there's a bunch of cool comic book stuff, but the thing with you got to be careful with going to comic book stores is there's a lot of items that are probably not going to sell, right? Because sell-through rate isn't great, right? It's just cool stuff, but it needs the right buyer. And so having a comic book store, it's kind of nice because, people at that moment see it and they want to buy it, right? Where on eBay, they might look at it and go like, I don't know. But I turned around and I see on the floor, I see a box, like a cardboard box. And I'm going to, you know what? This is a special episode. Mike, do you want to, I want to see if you can fill in space. I want to go grab it. Can I go grab it?
Yeah, go for it.
What are you
All right.
going to talk while I do this?
Yeah.
We're live right now. All right.
Yeah, we're live. So
Correct.
I'll throw up some comments that we have in here. So I'm probably gonna butcher these. But we got I know Orlando's gotten good at seeing your name. Diamond Roy, I think. Gonna drop some Bolo hairstyling tool brands in the chat just cause appreciate that. Guys, anybody who wants to throw something in the chat, if you got some Bolos, hustles of the week, we love to see those. So we got these here, Volume, Bio Ionic, and Croc, and Solel. So yeah, pick up those if you see them, those hairstyling tools. Occasionally I find some of those brands I've seen at the crazy hot deals, but if you got the right brand, man, you're gonna do well with those. All right, did you get it, Orlando?
All right. So I see this box, right? If you see this box right here, Batman, right? And I'm like, what is in this box? This looks kind of cool. And I go and it is sealed packs of cards. So and these are from like 1997. I don't know if you can see that there in the video. Okay, 1997 sealed, right? You see the watermark and everything. It's not like it's been resealed. And so in this box, okay, right here, I started counting them, and there was 10 of them in there, and I'm like, why has no one picked these up? Right, 10 of these. Not one single person has picked these up. And I'm like, I guess this was meant to be. And so I pick them up. And I go to the counter and I'm like, how much, for these? And they're like, whoa, that's not price. I'm like, no, for whatever reason, like people missed it. And they're like, well, what are you thinking? And then I saw them pulling out their phones, right? And I was like, remember, this is a tip. If you're in a estate sale or garage sale and they don't know how much and they start bringing up their phone, I say, think quick and just give them like the lowest you're willing to offer, right? I would say even go lower than that. So I saw these and I looked at the comps and they're selling like for 50 a piece, right? So 10 of them for 50 a piece, that's $500 I can make, right? Based on, well, not $500, but $500 in total gross. So I just said, you know what? Can we do 100? And they're like, oh, I don't know, that's a little too much. They're like, what about 150? And I'm like, well, how about 125? Meet me in the middle, right? I always say that, meet me in the middle. And they're like, all right, we can do 125. But then I noticed they wanted me to pay tax, so I forgot to bring my seller's permit. Here's another tip. If you go to state sales, if you have a seller's permit, depending on what part of the country you're in, you don't have to pay the sales tax at the estate sale. A lot of estate sales, if they're like legitimate, quote unquote, estate sales, they try to charge you sales tax. And so I said, well, why don't we do 115? Because I don't have my seller's permit on me. And they agreed. Well, here's the thing. The comps were going for 50. I went home and I saw that, there's only so many listed. So I ended up actually listing them for about $100 a piece. And I only have 4 left, but I've sold 5 of them, okay, for $80 a piece. And I sold one for about 60 or so a piece. And so I'm almost at my 500 from that $115 purchase. And I still have 4 left. So I count that as a hustle of the week. Well, it was crazy too. I had a reseller, or maybe somebody who owns the store, approach me and they, hey, would you be willing to sell all of them for $40 a piece for $400? And this was within like a week of me picking these up. And automatically I was going to make, 400, right? And I paid 115. I was going to make $200 something, $300 something net, $200 something net profit. And I was like, no, I don't know. And sure enough, people have been paying $80 for these. And so, and I'm probably right now, since I'm already in the profit, I'm probably gonna only sell them for $80 or north of $80 a piece. So yeah, always be aware. Somebody here said, somebody was right. Oh, where is it? Somebody had said, like, yeah, here you go. The sign of death is the phone pull out. And I agree. I 100% agree. Like once that phone once that phone comes out, like it's the end. Now here's a
Yeah.
bolo. Taylor Swift beautiful ICD DVD set. Found it recently, sold it for $100 within minutes. Yes, T Swift stuff sells for good money. So
Wow.
even like the Eras tour, like shirts and all that stuff, I think that stuff is selling for good money. So keep an eye out.
We should
for
make
items.
some Pure Hustle podcast friendship bracelets to start trading amongst our listeners here in the chat. It'd be fun.
You know what's funny? Remember we were gonna sell NFTs? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Like I'm kind of glad we didn't, because they were the biggest scam of all time,
Yeah.
right?
it's pretty
Because
sad.
how would we have felt like if we had sold those and they're worth nothing? I don't know if I would have felt.
Well, they
like that.
wouldn't have. Everyone would have known any NFT they bought from Pure Hustle Podcast wouldn't have been worth anything other than just the fun of doing it, But yeah, that's
I mean, I own some NFTs right now. I paid like 100 a piece for them.
you
and
paid
they
a bunch of money for a JPEG.
No. These weren't. They were cool JPEGs. They're 3D.
Okay,
They're
well,
basketball. They're basketball ones.
well, I have some beachfront property in Arizona I could sell you to, my friend.
And you know who's responsible for that scam?
Your boy
Well, I
Gary
don't know.
V.
Well, he was a big proponent of it. Like,
I guess we should be careful. We're
this-
not saying he promoted a scam for liability
no. I'm not
purposes.
saying that either. I'm just saying he promoted NFTs a lot.
I still have hope. I still have hope for NFTs, not necessarily as like trading JPEGs, but I think the technology could be useful in the future. It's
Okay,
interesting.
so to be clear, so Gary V Media doesn't come after us. They are not a scam, but some people sold NFTs that were scams.
Right.
So that's what we're saying. Are we clear on that? We're good now?
I think we're clear. That's what everybody heard. That's what everybody understands. We're good to go.
Okay. All right.
Pure Hustle Podcast did not have a bunch of lawyers on retainer, so.
No. But it's funny because people are asking now, and we're going off a sidetrack, but some NFTs were like, if you buy this, you get like a lifetime access, or you get a special dinner with us, or like stuff like that. And I wonder like how many of those people actually follow through on, right? So anyways, just interesting side note. All right, hey, let's get back to the topic at hand. Thank you everyone for your hustle of the week. Thank you for the hustle of the week in the chat. Thank you everyone who has joined us here. All right, so some other things.
Do we want to just pick maybe like two more to
Yeah, let's do that.
here?
Let's do that.
All right.
I'll let you go first. You pull the trigger on this next one.
Oh, you want me to go first? Okay. Okay, so one of the things is you want to take offers, right? A lot of times you kind of get into, we talked about that race to the bottom when you're looking at high end, or not high end, but those really hot items. But the other thing can be true too, where you're holding off too long and you're not willing to move your price down, right? When you've got those items and they start moving off the shelf, you can have that feeling of, well, if I wait closer to Christmas, these might go for the full asking price. I might be able to get more out of them. The scarcity is going to keep getting more. I can charge more. And there's sometimes that's the case. Like sometimes holding on to things a little bit can be worth it, but you also could end up being stuck holding the bag, right? You don't want to be the one holding the hot potato at the end. You've got that item. People are starting to make offers on it. You want to be willing to take those offers, because the reality is money today is worth more than money tomorrow. That's always been the case since we've been in this fiat currency, right? That's just the way inflation works. So getting that money today, not just because of inflation, but because of you've got that money now you can spend on more things, right? So if you can have a quick turnover time, and Orlando and I have had a big shift over the years in our model on that, right? Like before it used to be buy it, hang on to it until you get to that top dollar that you could possibly get for it, and you want to squeeze every penny you can out of an item. But it does come to a point where I would rather sell an item and only make 70% of what I potentially could if I waited for that right buyer who's willing and desperate enough to pay. Or I could take that 70% now and then go buy more items and just keep the ball moving, keep rolling. And so you want to do that. You want to be you want to have the inventory listed as you get close to Q4, but once they start selling, you definitely want to let those items move.
And just remember, Q4, there's no better time to sell an item, right? So you may get an offer on an item that you have not received an offer on, and you're like, oh, no, it's worth way more than that. That might be the only time you will ever get an offer on that item. So it's better for you to move it than to hold on to it and go, well, maybe next Q4 or whatever. Don't do that. Don't do that. Sometimes people go, oh, well, I'll just wait till January or February, which, that may be true, but you don't know that, right? Because a lot of people do have big months for eBay, better than they do in Q4 in January and February, but the chances are that may not be the case for the item that you have. And so if you get an offer and it's decent enough, or even if maybe it's even like a little less than you're willing to take, like if it's Q4, I would just take it and I would move on. So that's something I do regret, because I remember some Q4s going, no, maybe I'll get a little bit more later, and no one ever offered on that again. All right, and then listen, let's do two more. I want to end with the vacation one, but we'll talk about that here in a moment. But I want to encourage people, like, don't wait until December to sell items. Kind of like the same thing I've said just right now, like, because people will tell you like the peak season for Q4 is December, and there's some truth to that. It's changed a lot. There was a time, I would say probably 2021 and before, where like the peak time to sell things on Amazon was the first 2 weeks of December. I remember selling thousands of items. I remember selling more in those first 2 weeks of December than I had sold all year on Amazon. It was crazy. But then something happened. There was a shift that happened 2022, 2023, where people are actually buying stuff in late September, October, November. You just didn't know. And I remember the kind of like the unwritten rule for a lot of Amazon sellers was, you know what? Don't wait. Don't sell. Wait, because you're gonna get even more money during that peak time in those 2 weeks of December, because people are gonna stress out. They're gonna go like, I want to make sure I get this on time. I want to make sure I get this item, and so I'm gonna go straight to Amazon because they have the fastest shipping and so on. That's not really the case anymore in my experience. Unless you have something crazy, people are going to want a safe and sound buy, and so they're going to buy it earlier. They're not going to wait until December, and so don't wait until December to sell that item, because you got to be careful there.
Yeah, that's a good one. And kind of leading into our last one here, and I think it is an important thing to consider too, is be willing to take time off, right? Like, this is a time of the year where you're going to potentially be putting in more hours, more work than you've put in any other time during the year. Sometimes you'll do more in a few days than you did for several weeks combined in maybe the summertime. So you're going to start to burn out. It's going to be hard. It's going to be exhausting. Plus, you're moving into Christmas time, so you've got all kinds of family things happening. You've got other events going on in the world around you that it's going to take time from you. And so you want to find a time after you hit that peak, right? There's the few days before Christmas where you're still going to be getting a handful of sales because people are trying to get items quickly. You're going to be trying to rush things out the door. And then after Christmas, sometimes then there's a little bit of an uptick too, because people are getting gift cards and they're starting to buy the things they didn't get for Christmas. But as you start moving into the end of December, the start of January, you need to take some time to recuperate. Take some time to kind of step off the gas pedal a little bit, take a little bit of a vacation, and then some point during the end of that, do a little bit of reflection and really figure out what went well, what do I need to fix, how can I adjust into the next season. And that's kind of how you got to look at it. You almost have to look at your business in seasons, whether you're looking at it in a year, you're looking at it by quarter. But a lot of times, if you don't take some time off and kind of step outside of the reselling world for a minute, you just see it as one long continuous thing. And so you never do that reflection. You never really figure out what needs to be fixed. And that's, I think, a lot of times where people get stagnant. They're not growing. They get discontent with what they're doing, and they're sometimes just over it. And so you definitely want to make sure you take a little bit of time, spend that time with the family. If you made a whole bunch of money in Q4, buy yourself something nice. Go do something fun. Do something for you. Have some you time, right?
Yeah, I agree. Wasn't it Parks and Rec? Didn't they have? I forget what it was called, but
treat yourself.
Yeah, treat yourself. That's what it was. That's what it was. But it's so true. I got to tell you, my best vacations as a full-time reseller have always been after Q4. Like summer, it's nice, but summer you're kind of like, oh, it's summer slowdown. I gotta keep working. Or July has been a hot month for me sometimes as far as sales go, and so I kind of was like, oh man, things are going so well. I don't want to leave, but things really do die right after Christmas. There's like this week or two where it's just dead. And so enjoy the profits, enjoy the money that you made. realize you've been hustling like crazy for the last 2-3 months and just enjoy that quality time. So then you can pick things back up when January hits and February hits, and you can make even more money during that time and make things more profitable. Yeah. Hey, everyone, thank you for joining us. Thank you for everyone in the chat. Really appreciate everyone who took the time to be here with us live, and look forward to seeing you guys on our next live. Make sure you hit that like button, make sure you're subscribed, and hit that bell notification, because we do go live every Monday, and so you're notified when that happens, or whenever we have this long form live. Always appreciate being here with you guys. And with that being said, make sure to be real,
be relevant,
and be reselling. Enjoy this Q4 wrap. Leads.
This is a Pure Hustle podcast exclusive, like you've never seen us before.
That's right. It's time to level up.
Let's go. Summer slowdown is done and the chaos begins. There's no time to waste, cause it's Q4 again. Your sales will only increase when your hustle does too. You can take a day off once the season is through. So I'm hitting those stores until the close sign goes up, and I'm filling my carts with some Disney teacups. I'm not chasing the fads or the hot toys this year. No fingerlings, no Ryan's eggs, I'm in a different gear. Doing research is key, scan my way through the store. I'm ignoring the hype because there's bolos galore. Finding coupons online, increasing ROI. Maximize the profits cause it's do or die. The storage unit is full of crazy merchandise. Gonna sell it all for an exorbitant price, which will pay all the bills, leave some fun money too. Maybe buy some new books for the level up review.
Making money every day. All the toys selling through FBA. Still making sales on my eBay. Every cha-ching is another payday.
Yes, I'm making money every day. All the toys selling on FBA. Still making sales on my eBay. Every is another payday.
It's that magical Q4, tap money reservoir. Watch that money pour like waves upon the shore. The podcast that brings real relevant content. Let's not get irreverent, but instead make it prevalent. To make it that hustle, successful, attainable, reachable, feasible, exceptional, respectable. Do that next level with capital plentiful, credible, ethical, and ultimately scalable. Hustling through the night, it is a holiday. Make sure to check the sold on that eBay. Check that low ranking, went on the arbitrage. Shipping out packages to keep a clean garage. Grow to make that Lambo right up to the show. Don't try to stop me, got that money overflow. There's money out there, so don't settle for less. Thankful every day, cause I'm reselling blessed. Making money every day. All the toys selling through FBA. Still making sales on my eBay. Every cha-ching is another payday.
Yes, I'm making money every day. All the toys selling on FBA. Still making sales on my eBay. Every is another payday. I'm looking fly while I shop, got all my swag at a thrift store. Others have the same brands, but I know they pay more. Thrifting is smart, it's the reseller way. Building an empire who needs a 401k.
Don't get that mug life tatted on your chest. The business is yours, just make it your best. You gotta work hard for that financial gain. You gotta keep hustling to make it in this game.
Making money every day. All the toys selling through FBA. Still making sales on my eBay. Every chick is another payday. That's right. Pure Hustle Podcast on the beat.
2019 bringing that heat. So make sure to be real,
be relevant,
and be reselling. Leads.